السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله حمدا والشكر له شكرا. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله الملك الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله الصادق الوعد الأمين صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه أجمعين. وبعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله عز وجل، وخير الهدي هدي محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. وما قل ودل خير مما كثر وألهى، وقليل يغنيك خير من كثير يطغيك، وإنما توعدون لآت وما أنتم بمعجزين. وبعد, the respected brothers and sisters in Islam, إذا رمت أن تحيا سليما من الأذى ودينك موفور وعرضك صين، لسانك لا تذكر به عورة امرئ، فكلنا عورات وللناس ألسن، وعيناك إن أبدت إليك معايبا فصنها، وقل يا عين للناس أعين، وعاشر بمعروف وسامح من اعتدى، ودافع ولكن بالتي هي أحسن. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, today in Fajr prayer I was reading one of the most beautiful ayat in the Quran that teaches us how to talk. Because we talk every day. You can't live one single day without talking. It's our nature as human beings. So in this religion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even teaches us how to talk. It's verse number 114 in Surah Nisa. The woman, قال الله عز وجل لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس ومن يفعل ذلك ابتغاء مرضات الله فسوف نؤتيه أجرا عظيما. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about private conversation that we do every day. قال الله عز وجل to Muhammad عليه الصلاة والسلام, there is no good, there is nothing good in the sight of Allah in much of their private conversation. And then he said except, he made some exceptions subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you want to use your conversation very positively, just listen to this ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, except man amara bisadaqatin, whoever enjoins charity. So when we sit together every day, if you try to look around, you have now in your mind somebody who is in need, who really needs some help, whether it's emotional help or financial help. So just to make a goal out of this conversation, out of this gathering that you have every day, that you might have every day, is just to help somebody to enjoy charity for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your local masjid needs some charity, just do it. And then he said subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَوْ مَعْرُوفٍ, or that which is good. The word ma'ruf in Arabic language, هي كل ما استحسنه الشرع. It refers to everything that is good in Islamic perspective, in the side of Allah and the side of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Otherwise, the Nabi alayhi salatu wa sallam told us that in the day of Qiyamah, everybody who was involved in any conversation, who sat down in any gathering, will regret it on the day of Qiyamah, except if he has mentioned the name of Allah and had made prayers upon Muhammad alayhi salatu wa sallam in the gathering. قال النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام اجتمع قوم مجلسا لم يذكروا الله فيه ولم يصلوا على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إلا كان عليهم ترة يوم القيامة, يعني كان عليهم حسرة. So we will regret most of our conversation because it's not good in the sight of Allah, except if it is one of these three things: to enjoy charity, number two, to enjoy what is good. Anything that is good in the sight of Allah is to make a goal, just to make a goal in every gathering to do something good. And the third step, he said subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَوْ إِصْلَاحٍ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ, to reconcile between people, to reach a settlement between two people. And if you try now to look in your mind, you have now somebody in your mind who has a problem with his brother, and our responsibility is to reach a settlement between them, inshallah. And then he says subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ فَسَوْفَ نُؤْتِيهِ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. And whoever does this, only seeking the word from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah the Most Great said, I will give him a great reward. And you can imagine that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your master, that you worship, that you love him, he is Al-Azim, is saying about the reward that he will give you. The reward is great reward. So you can imagine how great it is. But if you go to some other places in the Quran, you will find the same concept. In Surah Al-Mujadala, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also talking about private conversation, and he said that he has forbidden a lot of people of that private conversation. قال الله عز وجل ألم ترى, he's talking to Muhammad عليه الصلاة والسلام, ألم ترى إلى الذين نهوا عن النجوى ثم يعودون لما نهوا عنه ويتناجون بالإثم والعدوان ومعصية الرسول وإذا جاءوك حيوك بما لم يحيك به الله ويقولون في أنفسهم لولا يعذبنا الله بما نقول حسبهم جهنم يصلونها فبئس المصير. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to Muhammad and said, haven't you considered those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden from private conversation? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden some people from private conversation. That's because of what? Is it haram to have private conversation? Of course not. But look at the Imam al-Alusi rahimahullah. In his tafsir, Al-Alusi, even his name is very beautiful. I would like to share it with you. His name is Shihab Ad-Din Al-Alusi. Like he's like a flashlight who tries to enlighten our life through the Quran. And his tafsir is entitled, its name is very beautiful too. It's روح المعاني في تفسير القرآن العظيم والسبع المثاني. That he made a tafsir for the entire Quran, and his book is named The Spirit of the Meanings of the Great Quran and the 7 praising verses. 7 praising verses are Surah Al-Fatiha. So Imam Al-Alusi always, the scholars say, he always tries to go behind the meaning to teach us. So قال الإمام الألوسي قال سيدنا عبد الله بن عباس نزلت هذه الآية في بعض اليهود والمنافقين الذين كانوا يجتمعون من دون المؤمنين ويتناجون بالإثم والعدوان وإذا مر بهم واحد من المسلمين سخروا منه فلما وجد المؤمنون في أنفسهم ذهبوا إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وشكوا له فدعا النبي المنافقين واليهود ونهاهم عن ذلك فانتهوا فترة معينة ثم رجعوا مرة أخرى يؤذون المؤمنين فنزلت الآيات. يقول سيدنا عبد الله بن عباس said that this ayah was revealed, the occasion of revelation, regarding some Jews and some hypocrites in Al-Madinah who used to gather and have some private conversation away from the believers. And whenever any believer passes by them, they used to look at him and to exchange some occasional glances about him. And when the believers started to feel very offended and very sad, came to the Prophet ﷺ, and they complained. The Nabi ﷺ called that group of Jews and hypocrites, and he said to them, "Do not do this again," and he forbade them of doing that. And they stopped doing that for some time, and they returned back. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ثُمَّ يَعُودُونَ لِمَا نُهُوا عَنْهُ وَيَتَنَاجَوْنَ. And then they return to what they have forbidden from doing, and they do the same thing. They converse about sin, aggression, and disobedience of the Messenger, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then he said, وَإِذَا جَاءُوكَ حَيَّوْكَ بِمَا لَمْ يُحَيِّكَ بِهِ اللَّهِ. Allah said, and when they get into the masjid, and when they approach you, Muhammad, they greet you with something that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not greet you with. Like for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He greets Muhammad alayhi salatu, He teaches him and his followers to say Assalamu alaikum. But the hypocrites, when they come to him, they don't say Assalamu alaikum. They say Sabbahak Allah, يعني مساك Allah, like good morning, good evening. They don't say Assalamu alaikum. And of course, I'm not saying whoever says Sabah al-Khair or good morning is a hypocrite. I'm not saying this, of course. But we're saying if you say Assalamu alaikum, you will be rewarded. But if you say other than this, I'm not sure if you're going to be rewarded or not. It depends on your intention. It's up to Rabbil Alameen. So this is the habit of the hypocrites. When they came to him, وَإِذَا جَاءُوكَ حَيَّوْكَ بِمَا لَمْ يُحَيِّكَ بِهِ اللَّهِ. And then they say, after all of that, they say, وَيَقُولُونَ فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ لَوْلَا يُعَذِّبُنَ اللَّهُ مِنْ نَقُولُ. The word أَنفُسِهِمْ here, it doesn't mean they talk to themselves. The word أنفُسِهِمْ here, it means they talk to each other. وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He addressed the believers, He talked to them as أَنفُسِكُمْ. أَنفُسِكُمْ means yourselves. Like you have to feel like we are one body, one person. That's why in the Quran this word is used for some groups. أَنفُسِكُمْ, yourselves. It doesn't mean you talk to yourself. It means they talk to each other. وَيَقُولُونَ فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Then they say to each other, and they're subhanAllah, they're amazed. لَوْلَا يُعَذِّبُنَ اللَّهُ مِنْ نَقُولُ. Why doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punish us because of what we do, because of what we do regarding the believers, because of what we say? And that is something that most of us do, a lot of us do, including myself. Sometimes when you make a sin, when you commit a sin, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not punish you right away, you just say to yourself, subhanallah, maybe He hasn't seen me, maybe nobody has seen me, so I can't do it again. I can't lie, and my tongue is still there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't cut it off. Still I have a tongue, and I can't lie. So still I can steal, and my hand is still there. I can watch something haram, and my eye is still there. Nothing bad happened. So I can't do it again. this is the approach of the hypocrites. وَيَقُولُونَ فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ لَوْلَا يُعَذِّبُنَا اللَّهُ بِمَا نَقُولُ. There is no any shooting star, for example, that came from the heaven to kill me. I'm okay. قال الله عز وجل, immediately after his reply was, حَسْبُهُمْ جَهَنَّمْ يَصْلَوْنَهَا فَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. Sufficient for them is the hellfire. They will be burnt in the hellfire. They will be burnt in the hellfire. فَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ, and wretched is the destination. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us, Ya Rabb al-Alameen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just describing the hypocrites in details. So they used to look at each other, mock Muslims, and laugh at Muslims. If you want to live in peace and tranquility, if you want our community to be shaded in the mercy, compassion, and love for the sake of Allah towards each other, we have to get rid of this character, of this characteristics, of this quality. And then قال الله عز وجل يا أيها الذين آمنوا, the ayah immediately after Surah المجادلة, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا تناجيتم فلا تتناجوا بالإثم والعدوان ومعصية الرسول وتناجوا بالبر والتقوى واتقوا الله الذي إليه تحشرون. So subhanahu wa ta'ala, all believers, when you have private conversation, do not converse about sin, aggression, and beatings of al-Rasul, but converse. That's fine to converse, have private conversation, to hang out with each other. That's halal. But he said, وَتَنَاجَوْا بِالْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Just converse about piety and righteousness. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي إِلَيْهِ تُحْشَرُونَ. And immediately after he is reminding us of the akhirah, and fear Allah to whom you will be gathered. You will be resurrected in the day of Qiyamah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the ultimate purpose, or one of the ultimate goals of the shaitan. One of the ultimate goals of the shaitan is to make a believer sad. This private conversation is just from a shaitan. A shaitan calls it that. لِيَحْزُنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. قال تعالى إِنَّمَا النَّجْوَى مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ لِيَحْزُنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَيْسَ بِضَارِّهِمْ شَيْئًا إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Definitely, of course, when you see some people talking and we just think that they are talking about you, feel sad. And this is the goal of a shaitan, to make you sad. He said subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed, this private conversation is just from the shaitan, to make the believers sad. لِيَحْزُنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, but don't worry, ya Muslim. Oh believer, don't worry. He said, وَلَيْسَ بِضَارِهِمْ شَيْئًا. Nothing can harm you in this world without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on Allah the believers should rely, should depend on Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب. قال ابن القيم رحمه الله, very beautiful saying I would like to share with you before I go further. قال ابن القيم الحزن يضعف القلب ويوهن الإرادة ويضر العزيمة ولا شيء أحب إلى الشيطان من حزن المؤمن. لذلك كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن عليه الصلاة والسلام. قال ابن القيم, sadness weakens the heart and cripples determination, and it harms your intention, it harms your willpower. And he said, nothing is dearer to the shaitan than a believer to be sad. It's the most beloved thing to the shaitan, for a believer to be sad. Because when you're sad, you can't even study, you can't go to work. You just isolate yourself from people. You don't want to socialize anymore because you're sad, you're upset, you're offended with them. And this is the goal of the shaitan, to make you sad, to make us offended. So you will quit your work, you will be bad in your studying. Just be very careful when it comes to sadness. That's why the Prophet ﷺ used to always raise his hands and say, Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from sadness and grief. Sadness and grief. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Be very careful. What is the solution? Immediately when it comes to that, increase saying astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ, فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ, فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ. That's it. Just increase doing that, and Allah will solve that for you. Seek refuge in Rabbil Alameen makes you that ask Him to relieve your sadness. وأقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم. الحمد لله حمدا حمدا والشكر له شكرا شكرا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. There is one more place in the Quran that talks about some situations that just similar to what we have mentioned. قال الله عز وجل in سورة المطففين إن الذين أجرموا كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون. So this ayah was revealed because this ayah says, those who committed crimes, he didn't say sins, subhanahu wa ta'ala. The word jarima, jurm, ajrama, yujrimun, this ayah is used with major sins in the Quran and Sunnah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا, this who committed major sins, this who committed crimes. Why? Because of what? They used to laugh at the believers. Okay, this ayah was revealed because some wealthy disbelievers, like Al-As ibn Wa'il and Abu Jahl, look even at his name. His name is Abu Jahl, the father of the ignorance itself. Like his name is Abu Jahl. And Al-As ibn Wa'il, his name is Al-As, the disobedient. Al-As, that's his name. So Al-As ibn Wa'il and Abu Jahl, the wealthy disbelievers, they used to mock, they used to laugh at the believers, at the poor believers. Like Sayyidina Bilal ibn Rabah, the black guy, the black slave, they used to mock him, radiallahu anhu. And Sayyidina Suhaib al-Rumi, Sayyidina Bilal, Suhaib al-Mu'ammar ibn Yasir, those poor Sahaba, radiallahu alayhi. The Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِهِمْ يَتَغَامَزُونَ. And when they passed by them, they look at each other and they exchange some evil glances, mocking the Muslims. And it's not sufficient for them even. When they go back to their people, they also talk about Muslims. قال تعالى وَإِذَا انقلبوا إِلَى أَهْلِهِمْ انقلبوا فَكِهِينَ. And when they go back to their families, they also mock about Muslims. They return back mocking, jesting about Muslims. وَإِذَا رَأَوْهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ لَضَالُّونَ. Because the Muslims do not follow the same religion that they have, and they left their religion and followed Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, they say they are ضَالُّون. They've gone astray. Those people have gone astray. وَإِذَا رَأَوْهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ لَضَالُّونَ وَمَا أُرْسِلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ حَافِظِينَ. But in fact, there are no judges upon them. We're not here to judge others. And then he said, subhanahu wa ta'ala, immediately he changed the situation to the believers, to those who follow him and follow his instructions. قال فَالْيَوْمَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ يَضْحَكُونَ. This day, he's talking about the last day of Qiyamah, this day, the believers laugh at the disbelievers. على الأرائك ينظرون, they are laying down, sitting down on their couches, observing what Allah has given them. هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون. Having the disbelievers been punished by what they used to do. Of course, they have been punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of what they used to do towards the believers. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. Private conversation, it should be something useful. And if you feel sad or offended because of anything that comes out of that, just seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will protect you, and know for sure that your sadness is one of the biggest goals for the shaitan, to weaken your heart. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وتولى أمرنا. اللهم علمنا ما جهلنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا يا ربنا علما. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين وعلى آله وصحابته أجمعين. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة.